everybody, this is Tracy here to recap the 7th episode of Queen Sugar, which airs on the OWN network on Wednesday nights. This episode was entitled In No Uncertain Terms, and just let me start off by saying episode 7 was emotionally draining and I was in tears by the end of the show. I am so vested into the characters and their complex storylines, and it is just like Oprah and Ava did an interview over the summer, and they were saying that they wanted to create shows where we could talk about the characters as if they were our family members and people that we actually know. And they hit the mark with Queen Sugar, because this episode was just like, had me and a whole bunch of other people all caught up in our feelings. So let's get started. We're going to start with Charley. And Charley, the show starts with Charley, and she's in a state of depression. She's balled up on a, I think it's like a Chaz lounge that's on Violet's front porch. I think that's where they were, or maybe they were on the back porch. And Violet is trying to talk to her, and tell her that she needs to eat. She needs to talk to people, telling her that she has to be strong for Micah and tell him, exactly what happened. And Charley, she's just like non-responsive. And Violet is like, baby, what happened? Let us know what happened so that we can help you. But she doesn't want to talk about it. And so then Violet, she kind of gives up, and she tells Charley, well, I'm sorry, your man ain't acting right, but my man is on his way home. And so she tells Charley that she's going to get her feet done, because Hollywood is on his way home and she wants to be, all fresh and tight for him. And so I was thinking about Charley and thinking like, dang, every woman should have that one friend, at least one friend, that you can go to and cry your heart out and scream, shout, do whatever you have to do, like a no judgment zone, and just be able to pour your heart out. But Charley obviously doesn't have that, and those people that she was friends with in California, I guess they was all fake and phony, because she seems to only have her family and she's shutting them out. Charley finally gets herself together, and we see her and Micah, and they're outside and they're sitting under this huge massive tree, and the branches are kind of curved over, and it's creating this arch. And the cinematography on this particular scene was just so beautiful. And she's telling Micah that things are about to be different, and Micah wants to know if the rape allegations were true. And she lets him know that they weren't true, but that Davis had been paying a prostitute, I think she said, for the last 3 years to have sex with him and his friends. And she tells Micah that they are getting a divorce. And Micah's first response was, I don't ever want to see my dad again. But then he asks, well, where are we going to be living? And Charley lets him know that they're going to stay in St. Josephine and farm the land. And so they'll probably be there for another 6 months. And then all of a sudden, Micah was like, hey, hold up. That means I'm going to miss my SATs and ACTs, and I got to go to school here. So now he's kind of thinking, well, maybe my dad ain't that bad, and we need to go on back and work this thing out. But I thought his reaction, even though my heart goes out to Micah for what he's going through, because I know so many kids, have to deal with divorce and infidelity and that kind of stuff in their parents' relationships. But Micah seems he may have been a little too guarded, because it was almost as if he didn't understand that you could take the SAT and the ACT anywhere in the country. I don't know why he seems to think that he could only take it, I guess, in California. So we're going to leave Charley for a second and move on to Ralph Angel. So Ralph Angel and Blue are sitting at the kitchen table, and if you recall, they decided to give Ralph Angel the father's house, and so him and Blue have moved into the house. And so we see them, and Blue is drawing pictures, the pictures that kids draw, of the mother, the father, and the kid, and the dog. And he's asking Ralph Angel if his mom if they're going to see her again. And Ralph Angel, he kind of brushes it off like, I don't know if we're going to see her anytime soon. And so while they're talking, the parole officer knocks on the door, and he comes in and he compliments Ralph Angel, on the farmland, and was like, wow, you really do have a nice piece of land here. And the parole officer, he then directs his attention to Blue, and he goes over to the table and he's asking Blue about the pictures, and Blue is talking about his mom. And you can tell that Ralph Angel is really uncomfortable with the guy, showing so much interest in Blue. So he sends Blue to his bedroom, and it lets us know that Ralph Angel, I don't know what Ralph Angel's issues is, but he's overprotective, he's insecure, he just has a whole lot going on when he really needs to just relax and understand when people have his best interests at heart and they are trying to help him be a better person. And so once him and the PO sit down and they're talking, and he asks Ralph Angel, is Blue living at the house? And when Ralph Angel says yes, what's the problem? He pulls out a paper and he lets Ralph Angel know that Violet has legal custody of Blue, and as long as she has legal custody, that Blue can't live at the house with him. He has to live with Violet. And so he gives Ralph Angel a form that he needs to take to Violet, where she's relinquishing custody of Blue and giving him custody in order for Blue to live there. And then next he asks about Darla and wants to know if she's back in the picture. And Ralph Angel, gives a resounding no, she is not back in the picture, even though a couple of episodes ago we saw him go over there and have sex with her. And so the PO, he has a litany of things that he wants to talk to Ralph Angel about, and he's not wasting any time getting it out. And so next on his agenda was, what happened to you and the job at the electronics company? And Ralph Angel tells him that he was laid off. And then he said, well, it's really interesting that you were laid off around the same time that you were complaining about how you didn't like the job. He says, so I'm going to ask you again, what happened? And so Ralph Angel was like, I got laid off. And so then he says, oh, okay. He says, well, let me tell you. And then he proceeds to tell Ralph Angel that the owner of the company suspected that the employees were stealing from him. And so there was a search done on everybody's house, all the employees' homes, and that he knew that the police had been to Violet's property and searched the shed. And then he tells Ralph Angel that the guys that he worked with, they were arrested, and now they're all facing like 5 to 7 years or 5 to 10 years in prison. So he says, well, considering, that you were laid off, we don't have to I don't have to report this, that, you lost your job. He says, but I do need for you to find another job. And then Ralph Angel gets on the thing about, he's working for the farm and why can't that be his job and blah, 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 blah. So then the guy tells him, he says, well, the only way you can count that as your job is that you have to be an employee, you have to be working and getting paid at least minimum wage, 40 hours a week, and you have to have health care coverage. And so Ralph Angel tells him, oh, that's not a problem. I'll get my sister to do that. And so the guy gives him some more paperwork, that he needs to go and have Charley fill out and certify that he is an employee and that, he will be getting paid, with a pay stub where he can prove that he's working the 40 hours. And so you can tell that even though he wants to support Ralph Angel, he's also getting tired of Ralph Angel. So I think Ralph Angel needs to tread lightly with the parole officer before he alienates him and the guy's no longer rooting for him and trying to help him out. So then later we see Remy, Ralph Angel, and Charley, and they're at the farm and they're talking about planting the sugarcane and the fertilizer and fertilizing the ground. And then Remy mentions to Charley that there's a storm coming and that he hopes that they can get everything done, before the storm hits. And so a guy arrives with the truck, and I think he has I'm not sure how you plant sugarcane, but it looks like they have like stalks of sugarcane that they plant in the ground, and then that produces the crop. I'm not sure because I didn't want to go into that. But anyway, the guy tells Charley that she owes him like $3,000 and some dollars, for delivering the sugar cane. So she gives him the credit card. He swipes the credit card. The credit card is declined for insufficient funds. And so he tells her that he can't unload the sugar cane until, or whatever it is, the sugar cane or the fertilizer, which is crap, fertilizer is like cow manure. So or maybe he had both. I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention. So anyway, Charley calls the bank and she finds out that Nova had withdrawn that $10,000 and sent it to a bail bondsman. And so she turns and looks at Ralph Angel, and Ralph Angel's like, well, I don't know why you're looking at me. It wasn't me. I didn't take the money. So we have Ralph Angel and Charley, and they're meeting at the diner where Aunt Violet used to work at. And when she sits down, Ralph Angel asks her, well, did Nova take the money? And Charley lets him know that yes, she did take the money. And so then he lets Charley know that the driver said that he would come back. Ralph Angel is asking her, if the guy comes back later, will she have the money to pay him? And this kind of ticks Charley off, and she's starting to feel like she's an ATM for the family. And then Roberta, the sexy waitress at the restaurant, she comes over to the table and she's flirting with Ralph Angel, and then that annoys Charley. So then Ralph Angel brings up about a problem he's having with a contract that has to do with the farm. And, Charley says, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And so then he uses the opportunity to bring up the fact that he needs her to make him an employee of the farm, so he can satisfy his parole conditions. Charley flips out and she says, all people do is just take from her, and she's like yelling. And I think she took out some money and to pay the check. And Ralph Angel's, telling her, I got it, but she still throws the money or whatever it was on the table before storming out. And so, Ralph Angel's like, oh my God, why did she do this? So we see him go over to the counter and he tells Roberta that he'll take the food to go. And so Roberta, she's in her sexy mode, and I guess she's figuring out that in due time, if she just be patient, that Ralph Angel will have some money. So now we see her moving from trying to get with Hollywood to now she's trying to get with Ralph Angel. And so as they're, flirting with each other, Violet comes in for her last check. And the owner, is asking her, when is she coming back? And, Violet lets him know, I have a man to support me. I'm not coming back. But you can tell that the restaurant isn't doing as good now that Violet has left. So they're kind of regretting the decision of letting her walk out. And so Ralph Angel decides to ask her to sign the paperwork, giving him custody of Blue. And Violet lets him know under no certain terms am I letting that happen. And she reminds him that, just a week or so ago, he was about to get arrested, for that stolen property. And that had she not taken care of that situation and gotten rid of the merchandise, that he would be back in jail. And that if she didn't have custody of Blue, if he were to go back to jail, that Darla would get custody of him. And, she's unfit. And then she starts telling him this very vivid story about how they rescued Blue from Darla, and that Hollywood had went to some crack house or something where Darla was turning tricks, and it was like a really nasty, deplorable conditions of this house, and that Blue was laying on the floor and he was malnutrition, and Darla was having sex with a guy, and the guy, the sweat from him banging Darla was dripping down on Blue, and then you could just see the expression on Ralph Angel's face, and he's just like really angry and disgusted, and he's probably thinking like, damn, I had unprotected sex with Darla, just a couple of weeks ago. And so it's probably a whole bunch of things going through his mind. And although he's not happy that Violet isn't going to sign the papers, I think he has to be smart enough to know that it's in the best interest of Blue that she remains the custodial guardian. So later in the day, Roberta has gotten off from work and she shows up at the farm, and she has a housewarming gift for Ralph Angel. And we can tell that, she is about to reel Ralph Angel in hook, line, and sinker. And he's falling for it, and he gets his little seductive tone on, and he tells her to go take a shower, and freshen up, because she had just gotten off from work, and to make sure that she doesn't put her clothes back on, that she leaves everything off. We're going to move on to Nova. And so Nova is lying in bed, and she's not really asleep, but sort of like taking a little cat nap or whatever. And then the camera pans over to the doorway of the bathroom, and Chantal enters the room and she's putting her clothes back on. So I guess we are getting the first glimpse of what seems to be the obligatory gay scene that every television show seems to have nowadays. And so her and Chantal, they're interacting. Nova pulls her back into the bed and they're kissing and carrying on. And so Chantal asks Nova something, and then Nova says that for the first time she's feeling free. So I guess she's ready to explore this lesbian relationship with Chantal. And so later we see Nova and Chantal. They are out in the garden and they're flirting with each other and smoking weed. And Chantal is complimenting her on her, her herbs. And Nova jokes with Chantal, like, this is a seductive tone, like she can't wait to see if the herbs makes her omelet taste better. So I don't know if Chantal had got up and cooked breakfast and we talking about a real omelet, or is we talking about the omelets between her legs? So I don't know. So then we hear a car drive up and Nova, tells Chantal to wait. She's going to go around front and see who it is. And so we find out that it's Charley who's shown up at the house, and she's going to confront Nova about taking the money out of the bank account. So those two get to arguing, and then about Nova stealing the money. And then Charley brings up the fact that Nova, she lives with a double standard and only does things when it's convenient for her, because when Charley was spending money trying to help with the repass, it was a bad thing. But because Nova decided she wanted to get too sweet out of the jail, then it's okay, to spend a bunch of money and, be frivolous with money. And then she lets Nova says she didn't steal the money and she plans to put every penny of it back. And then Charley lets her know that anytime you take something without permission, that's considered stealing. And I was like, yeah, girl, you got a point there. And so Charley, and they keep going back and forth, and then Nova says, well, if it was Micah, you would have did the same thing. And then she tells Charley, but you have a lot of nerve complaining when you just spent $3 million on your trifling ass husband to keep him from going to jail. And then Chantal comes around and she's like, everything okay, baby? Like she about to get up in somebody's business for messing with her boo. And Nova tells her, everything is fine, and this is her sister. And then now Charley is just really repulsed and disgusted by Nova. And she, she realizes what's going on. And then she tells Nova, she goes, don't ever talk to me about anybody else's trifling ass. So later Nova arrives at Violet's house, and it's Violet, Micah, Blue, and Hollywood. And they're trying to sort through and untangle some Christmas lights. And I'm not sure if I remember, but Hollywood is having this big crab boil party, I think later that night or the next day. And so everybody's, gearing up and getting ready for that. So Nova is there looking for Charley, but when she learns that Charley's not there, she invites Micah to go with her to interview a urban artist that she's getting ready to do a article on. Violet lets Micah know, he doesn't have to stay and help them, and that he can go to the interview with Nova. So Nova, Chantal, and Micah arrive at the I don't know if it was a warehouse or art gallery, but the guy was painting a lot of different murals on the walls of wherever they were, and they were like brick walls or cinder block walls, and he had painted these murals all over the building that they were in. And so as Nova goes to talk to the artist, we see Micah and Chantal, and they're touring the exhibit, and she's educating Micah on, what each one of the murals represent. And they come up to one, and it had, I think it was Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and the guy from Oscar, I can't think of his name, the one from San Francisco that the Fruitville Station movie was made about, Oscar Grant. And so she's giving him the history behind those. And then once again, we see just how shielded Micah has been from the world, because he seems to have no clue about any of this stuff that's been going on. And we can tell that Micah is really feeling Chantal, and he might be getting a little crush on her, and she's smiling and flirting with him. So That's going to be another interesting thing that, we may have to see later on down the road. So then it goes back to Nova, and she's interviewing the guy. And I just thought that they did an excellent job of incorporating the Black Lives Matter movement into the show. This is very tastefully done. So now we're going to get back to Charley. So Charley returns to Violet's house, and she's venting and upset. She's just left. I think she had just left the lunch with Ralph Angel. And so she's telling Violet, everything that's going on with the farm and with Ralph Angel wanting her to make him an employee, and Nova taking the $10,000 out of the account. And when she gets slick in the mouth, talking about Ralph Angel, that's when Violet put her foot down. It's like, you ain't gonna be talking about my baby like that. And so she's telling her, she needs to be a little kinder, because Ralph Angel is trying, and he's trying to do his best. And then Charley made some smart comment, and then she tells him about how he left the job, and then right after he left the job, some of the workers were arrested, and so if he hadn't quit the job, he would have been arrested also. And then she lets Charley know that everything isn't as it seems, and everyone isn't out to get her, so she needs to relax and chill out a bit. When Violet lets Charley know that Micah has gone off with Nova against, here's something else for Charley to freak out about. And then she calls Micah, and she's telling him he needs to come home. And then Micah's like, well, exactly where is home? Because last time I checked, we don't have a home anymore. And so, she says, well, you need to come to Violet's, and you need to come right now. She also asks Micah, how dare you go anywhere without permission? And he tells her, well, I was with Aunt Violet, and Aunt Violet gave me permission to go. And I think that's when they hung up the phone. Now we're going to move to Charley and Remy, and we can tell that their relationship is starting to grow, and they're getting closer, at least building a friendship if nothing else. And so Remy asked Charley, did Nova apologize for taking the money? And then she gets in her feelings again, and she goes on another rant about how people only want her to pay for their mistakes, and how she's going to divorce her cheating husband and move away because she's figured out that she can write a check and send money from anywhere, since nobody cares about her. They just want her money. And so then Remy tries to calm her down. He's telling her, you special, and you was kind, and you was a woman, kind of sound like From the Help. But seriously, he apologizes to her for everybody who hasn't been able to tell her that they're sorry for what they've done to her. And he lets her know that, she's an incredible woman. And so Charley, you can tell that she's not accustomed to people being nice to her or being sympathetic, to her feelings, because she looks at him and she doesn't say thank you or anything, but she just says, I'll see you tonight at Hollywood's party. And then Remy walks away. So that was kind of like a lost moment where she seemed unappreciative that at least one person was in her corner and cared about her. Now we're going to go to Hollywood and Violet. And I forgot to mention this, and I really can't remember where this happened in the show, but it was Hollywood, Micah, Blue, and Violet, and they were all together at the house. And they send Micah and Blue off to go to the ice cream parlor because they need to unpack some things. And so I thought that was cute. Those two, they just seem so happy and in love. So we see Hollywood, and he goes on he's on the porch, and he's talking on the phone, and we learn that he's talking to his crazy wife, who, well, I shouldn't say crazy, she's suffering from bipolar, and I guess she hasn't been taking the medication, and she's on a whirlwind, and he's trying to calm her down, and I guess she wants to come to see him, but he's telling her, to take her medicine, and that when he gets a chance, he'll come and see about her. And so he doesn't realize that Micah is on the porch, and Micah overhears the whole conversation. So now it's getting close to the party, and people are showing up to help set up for the crab boil. And, they're decorating outside. And I think this is what they needed the Christmas lights for, where they put the lights up in the backyard to help decorate for the party. And Charley and Remy are talking when Micah and Nova pull up. And so Charley walks away from him to go confront Nova about taking her son. And she overhears Nova on the phone with Calvin, who was the police officer. And Charley is shocked to learn that Nova while she was dogging Davis out and telling her, she needs to leave Davis, that she was involved with the married man herself. And so Nova tells Charley, that her and the guy broke up. And then Charley tells her that, before she takes Micah again, that she better call her first. And so, they're angry with each other. And Micah is helping Hollywood, and they can tell that Charley and Nova are arguing. And Hollywood comments that someone needs to tell the sisters that they're grown women and they need to learn how to talk out their issues and resolve them, and not be fighting and carrying on. And then Micah tells him that he should take his own advice and talk to Aunt Violet about his wife. And Hollywood seems shocked that Micah knows, so I guess he really didn't see Micah sitting on the porch when he was talking on the phone. And so Hollywood tells him that he doesn't understand what's going on and that it's more to the story. And at this point, Micah is over adults and he thinks that they all lie and they all have issues. And so he tells Hollywood that he sounds just like his dad, and he was really hoping that, Hollywood would be different, and at least one man was honest and had integrity and could be a man of his word. So it's party time, and, people are arriving, the music is going, the lights are on. And I was just thinking, man, the seafood looks so good, and I would love to go to a party like that. But I don't think they really do things like that here in St. Pete. I know in DC they have a lot of crab boils and seafood parties, so I'm thinking that it has to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm getting hungry now, so let me move on. We have Micah sitting at a table, and he's sulking by himself, doesn't want to be bothered. And then Charley is at a different table, and she's stewing, all in her feelings. And so Ralph Angel shows up, and he got smile for days, because I guess Miss Roberta put the snapping turtle on him, because he's all happy. And he goes to Violet, and he asks Violet, where's Blue? So he was all into Roberta, that he hasn't even seen Blue all day long. And so Violet, lets him know that Blue played all day and helped them with the party, and now he was upstairs in the bed asleep. And so Violet and Hollywood, they start dancing, and they do that, I can't think of the name of it, but it's a real popular dance in Louisiana. Remy, he looks over and he sees Charley, and she's over there by himself, so he goes and he tries to talk to her, and he's talking to her about his his wife that passed away. And I don't know if I pointed this out before, but I think Remy's wife's name was Charlotte, and we know that Charley's name was Charlotte also, so what a coincidence. And Charley's just staring off in the distance and not really responding, sort of like she did earlier when he was talking to her. And he was just telling her that she has to give people time. She has to give herself time to heal, and she also has to give people time, and she needs to stop being so hard on herself. And so the more he talks about, how he felt when his wife passed away, he gets emotional, and he gets up and he walks off from Charley. And Charley's, just standing there looking at him, just looking mean, mad, and like the only person's feelings or the only emotions that she can connect to are her own, and that she really can't feel for him, and and that he's still mourning the loss of his wife. And so everybody's having a good time at the party, and we're enjoying the party, and the next thing we know, here comes the wife. So the wife shows up, and she's calling for Hollywood, and Violet gets up to go, see who she is and what she needs. And so she's saying, I need Hollywood. And so she turns to Violet turns to Hollywood, and she says, Hollywood, she's saying your name, baby, who is she? And so then Hollywood's trying to explain that it's his ex-wife, and then the crazy wife is like, no, I'm still your wife, and we got to see about the baby. And she's talking about a baby, and Violet's like, you got your wife, you got a baby with her? What are you talking about? And keep in mind, all their guests are there, and everybody's kind of like focused in on what's going on. And then Nova gets up, and she comes over, and she's trying to counsel the wife and calm her down, and to make sense of everything that's going on. And so Hollywood's trying to explain that when they were married, she had a miscarriage, and I guess she didn't take it very well, and she's not taking her medication. And Violet, she's just really confused. And then he starts trying to tell her that he stayed married to her so that she would have insurance to deal with her bipolar, and that when he was in Baton Rouge, it was like the last 2 days of his trip, the hospital called and said that, you know, they had did like a 72-hour hold on her, and he had to go because he had to go see about her, and because he has the insurance, but Violet's not really hearing what he says. And then crazy wife breaks away from Nova and she slaps Hollywood. And honey, what she did that for? Because then Violet went and charged at the woman, and Hollywood had to grab her and pull her back. And she was like, oh no, she had no right putting her hands on you. And so he's steady trying to explain to her what's going on. Crazy wife is steady yelling stuff. And so Violet, you know, she's upset, and Hollywood is just, you know, he's trying to talk to her. And so he tells her, oh, when I get back, we'll talk about it. I explain everything to you. But then Violet tells him, no, you can't come back here. You need to go. You know, you lied to me. You could have told me all this in the beginning, but you lied. And you know, she doesn't deal with liars. And so Ralph Angel walks up, and Hollywood is asking Ralph Angel to follow him to take the lady back to Baton Rouge so he can have the truck, I guess, to come back in or something like that. And so Ralph Angel agrees to go. So the two of them walk off and leave with the wife to take her back. And it was just such an emotional show. And of all the people, you know, we could count on, it was Hollywood. And now Hollywood has let us down. And just seeing Violet just so distressed and so in shock, you know, about everything that's happened and the embarrassment she had to feel, you know, for this to happen in front of all her people. And then, you know, as we're dealing with this, you know, happening, then the screen fades to black. And then we look at the screen, and Miss Oprah lets us know that they won't be back until October 26th, and they're doing a marathon next week. And I guess it's a good thing because we can, you know, digress and release some of this frustration, and others can get caught up on the show. But I am so loving this show. The show is so real, and I just, Wednesday night, I sat and watched all the episodes. I think they started airing on like 6 or 7 o'clock, and I was glued to the TV and then watched the repeat until like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I am so loving this show. So that's it. Subscribe to the channel, comment, rate the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.